A dark revelation has shrouded the world of entertainment, like a mantle of silence lurking in the shadows. Sean Diddy Combs, the undisputed king of hip-hop, has been arrested. This isn't just a common accusation. What lies behind bars goes far beyond what cameras have shown. It all began as a whisper in the dark, small signs, ignored by many, but caught by those who could see beyond the glitz. As the truth is unearthed, one must ask, what monsters lurk in the deepest corners of the most revered souls? Diddy, a name that echoed with power and success, concealed a dark side no one imagined. But as with shadows, sooner or later, they come to light. It all started with a series of discreet investigations that revealed a disturbing pattern, events that seemed harmless, glamorous parties, and exclusive gatherings, where victims began to emerge. What were mere rumors to the world soon spiraled into a storm of revelations. Secret testimonies started to emerge, describing disturbing scenes of abuse, control, and manipulation. If you're someone who enjoys these real stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Diddy wasn't alone in this spiral of terror. It was said that his power came not only from music but from his control over the lives of others. People began pointing out the same disturbing practices, invitations to private parties where the lines between the permissible and the forbidden blurred. Women, drawn by the promise of fame or an opportunity in the entertainment business, told stories of fear and coercion. At these events, the atmosphere grew cold, as if an invisible force kept everyone in silence. The authorities knew they couldn't wait any longer. Allegations that had been ignored were now impossible to overlook. Cassie, his ex-girlfriend, was one of the first to speak up. Her account was a mix of horror and suffering, a muffled scream that revealed the dark secrets behind closed doors. She detailed how Diddy not only controlled every aspect of her life, but also kept her under terrifying surveillance, using his power to silence any attempt to escape that twisted reality. The weight of her words resonated across the world. Others began to speak out as well, women whose voices had been silenced by fear and Diddy's influence. Their stories were chilling, descriptions of emotional and physical manipulation, of how their lives were shattered by a figure who seemed untouchable. Diddy's parties were more than just celebrations, they were the perfect cover for a darker network of abuse. These women, once part of the glamour, were now witnesses to a hell that many were unaware of. The investigations were not limited to the statements of these women alone. Connections began to surface with shadowy figures within Diddy's circle, individuals who appeared to be silent accomplices in these atrocities. Photos and videos, once seen as mere glimpses into his lavish lifestyle, now revealed unsettling details, clues pointing to a more elaborate system of control. There were whispers of hidden places, secret rooms and mansions where Diddy's power felt like a prison for those caught in his influence. The most chilling part came when authorities began to uncover testimonies from some victims who had disappeared from the public eye. Women, silenced by fear or intimidation, had been forced to remain quiet. Despite the accusations, it was clear that Diddy had absolute control over their lives. The evidence was vague, their words lost in the maze of his influence, but the pattern was undeniable. His grip on the victims was almost total, as if an invisible thread kept them captive in a world they could not escape. However, it wasn't just personal abuse that came to light. Authorities started uncovering clues pointing to something even more sinister: human trafficking. Theories began to intertwine, suggesting that Diddy used his connections and events to cover up a wider network. It wasn't just about power over individuals, but a network that spanned more victims than anyone could have imagined. This discovery shocked the public, and what seemed like a mere case of abuse of power now took on the tone of a much more sinister operation. The media, always eager to chase scandals, began focusing on this dark chapter of Diddy's life. However, information was scarce, and much of the evidence seemed to get lost in bureaucracy. The voices of the victims, though courageous, were easily discredited by those still defending the hip-hop legend. But those who had followed the case from the beginning knew this was just the tip of the iceberg. The more that was investigated, the clearer it became that this wasn't an isolated case, but part of a dark and twisted web. Those who had been close to Diddy started to speak out. Some of his former collaborators described a change in his behavior, a transformation into a person who became increasingly dark and controlling. Stories about his temper, his outbursts of rage, and his growing obsession with power began to emerge. No one wanted to believe it at first, but the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The image he had built through years of effort and work was now crumbling before the public's eyes. The connections between power, fame, and abuse are a common theme in celebrity scandals, but in Diddy's case, there was something even more disturbing. The human trafficking accusations weren't just rumors. Investigations began to shed light on shady transactions, suspicious relationships, and private events that seemed to cover something much larger. Reports pointed to clandestine meetings in remote mansions where rules didn't exist and victims were treated as disposable objects. Diddy's arrest wasn't the end, but the beginning of a deeper investigation. As justice began to take action, more victims continued to come forward, recounting their stories of horror. Some described how they had been deceived, while others recounted being forced into silence under veiled threats. The most chilling aspect was the network of complicity that surrounded him: influential people, other celebrities, and figures in the entertainment world who seemed to know what was happening but chose to look the other way. The question everyone was asking was, how deep does this dark secret go? The investigations continued, but authorities knew they were dealing with something much larger than they had imagined. Detectives were tracing international connections, looking for evidence that could support the trafficking accusations. Meanwhile, the victims, though filled with fear, began to gain strength, uniting their voices in a chilling chorus demanding justice. Diddy's power was crumbling before the world's eyes. Diddy's story had shifted from one of success and fame to a nightmare that no one expected. The fall of such an influential figure left the entertainment industry in shock, but it also served as a terrifying reminder of the dark secrets that often lurk behind the glitz of celebrity life. With every new revelation, it became more evident that this was only the beginning of a case that would shake not just Diddy's life, but the entire world. As the investigations continue, the figure of Sean Diddy Combs transforms into a symbol of the darkness that can hide within power and fame. The victims are still seeking justice, and the truth, that shadow that was always present, is finally coming to light. What more will be uncovered in the coming days? No one knows for sure, but one thing is clear: the empire Diddy built, based on control and terror, is about to crumble completely. Leave a comment and tell us what you think about what's happening with P. Diddy, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.